On a warm afternoon, as the sun cast gentle waves across the Sea of Galilee, Jesus and his disciples climbed into a small boat. They were tired, having spent the day teaching and healing, surrounded by crowds eager for wisdom and hope. The boat slowly pulled away from shore, its wooden sides creaking, carrying Jesus and his followers toward the far side of the lake. As they drifted further from shore, Jesus settled into the boat and soon drifted into sleep. The disciples chatted quietly, their voices mingling with the sounds of the waves lapping against the wood. They had barely set out when, without warning, dark clouds gathered overhead. The calm sea turned restless as gusts of wind swept across the water, making waves that lashed against the boat. Lightning cracked in the distance, illuminating the thickening storm clouds that now loomed overhead. The disciples felt a surge of fear as the storm intensified, shaking their small boat. Seasoned fishermen like Peter and Andrew knew the sea well, but they also knew the ferocity of sudden storms on the Galilee. The men shouted to each other, scrambling to keep the boat from capsizing as waves grew higher, threatening to pull them under. Through the rain and chaos, they caught a glimpse of Jesus, still sleeping, calm and untouched by the fury around him. Desperate and shaken, the disciples roused him, their voices choked with fear. "Master, don't you care if we perish?" one cried. Another reached out, his voice trembling. "Save us, Lord." Jesus opened his eyes and sat up, his expression calm, as though the storm's roar was merely a whisper. He looked around at his friends, their faces pale and drenched, and he stood, slowly raising his hand. "Peace," he said, his voice cutting through the tumult like a blade. "Be still." The moment he spoke, the howling winds ceased, and the waves sank back into the sea. The clouds above parted, letting sunlight flood across the water, warming the shivering disciples and illuminating their astonished faces. It was as if the storm had never been. The sea lay calm and glassy, stretching out in serene beauty. The disciples stared at Jesus, wide-eyed, and each one seemed to ask the same unspoken question. Who is this man who commands the wind and waves, and they obey him? To those who had grown up hearing tales of God's power over nature, the calm in Jesus' voice seemed to hold a deeper significance. One disciple, James, whispered to another, "Could this be more than a miracle of survival? What hidden meaning lies in this power?" As the disciples continued across the lake, an awe grew in them, one deeper than mere amazement. They began to see Jesus in a new light. It was as though he held a connection not only with God but with the very forces of creation, as if the elements themselves knew him. This wasn't simply an act of saving his friends. The storm, the stillness, and the words he spoke all seemed to carry a message. Jesus showed them that his teachings weren't limited to words. His power over the natural world hinted at a profound mystery, that his love and authority stretched far beyond what they could see or understand, touching even the depths of the earth and sky. In that moment, the disciples sensed something new about their teacher. To them, Jesus was no longer just a wise healer and prophet. He seemed to embody something larger, something divine. This mystery stayed with them long after they had reached the shore, and each time they looked at the lake, they would remember that moment, a time when they had glimpsed a hidden power beyond the seen world and their understanding. From then on, the disciples knew that following Jesus was a journey of discovery, one that went deeper than simple faith. They had learned that this journey would take them not only across lands, but into realms of spirit and mystery, where love and courage were as real as any storm, and that no matter what forces rose against them, the peace and power in Jesus' words could calm even the wildest seas.